They're live. Hello. Oh, and someone's joined us. Hi, Eva. So, welcome to the latest instalment of the Unlearning Conversations, where we are talking about, I suppose, the stories and the expectations and all the bullshit that we've had to let go of to build businesses and lives the way that we want them to. And I am absolutely thrilled, even though that sounds a bit cliche, to welcome Lucy Werner of Hype Yourself. And the reason I wanted to chat with Lucy, other than her general fabulousness, is she's been really open and honest about her experiences of moving to France and what that means in terms of rebuilding a life and a career and all of that kind of stuff. So basic, like tier A unlearning fodder, I thought. So thank you for coming along, spending your afternoon with us. For those who don't know you, although I'm sure everyone does, do you just want to say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Lucy Werner. I tend to be on all social media channels as Lucy Werner PR because that was my background. In 2014, I set up my own PR agency. A few years later, the co-founder of my children joined and he set up the branding division. And then, kind of like a lot of people post Panny D, decided we were going to test out a different life. So I basically pivoted. I'd had a PR book that I'd written when I set up my own agency, and I tried before to kind of do different DIY things, but really it was when I pivoted to trying to live in France, and I got rid of all of my agency clients as a 3-month test, kind of like MVP'd my life and my job at the same time. And today I run what was formerly a top 50 business publication on Substack, but now I host it on my own website. It's a newsletter membership called The Hype, and it's on hypeyourself.com.
Yes, and big plug for that. I've been a member, and I've actually been pitching this morning. I've been following your guidance. So yes, always hyping. So who were you before you became kind of Lucy the Hyper?
What, before I had the job?
Yeah, like what's the backstory that's made you who you are today?
I think, to be honest, there was always an element that I always wanted to be a writer. Sorry, I don't know why my dog's decided he's going to be part of the call, but that's happening.
He is more than welcome.
He's in for the oh my god. I've lost my camera. I was trying to like get him on. There we go. Right. Being snogged by the dog live in front of the world. So I always wanted to be a writer. When I was younger, like 90s Brits people get these references. I was like part of the press pack. I wanted to be like in Newsround. I had a subscription to the Fun Day Times Club. I was really into like the Lois Lane of like the Clark Kent Return of the Superman series. Like, I always just thought I was going to be a journalist. And then somewhere along the way, that kind of got like knocked out of me. And somewhere along the way, I kind of lost my own voice and who I really was and what I really stood for. And I think my brain, I've realized as I've got older, my brain works in a very unique way. I mean, we all do. But typically in PR, agency land, you tend to either work in creative or strategy, or you work in consumer or B2B. And I was always actually quite good at all four. So I was always I was kind of quite polyamorous in the PR world, if you like, in terms of my skill set. And I really think that helped me to be able to like take people and put them in places where they don't belong. And I guess really at the heart of it, I never really felt like I had a voice and I was listened to. So now I get to really help other people get their voices out there and get their work out there. And it's my own small form of activism against what's going on in the world, because I think independent creators and small business owners and self-employed folks are going to leave the world a better place. So as much as I can champion them to get themselves out there, the better I think I will, leave my mark on the world.
Yeah. And so you were doing PR and then decided to set up your own agency.
Yeah.
What was the rationale behind that at the time?
really, because I was doing all the good stuff, like e-cigarettes and gambling, um, alcohol, and I had a specialism that made it really pleasant in my job. I was great with really difficult clients. So along with that amazing portfolio, I also got the difficult clients. So the segue together, it was really quite the dream experience for me.
I feel envious, yeah.
Right. And at the same time, I was coming up to my 30s. And I think that's when typically a lot of people start to have a bit of a career pivot. And I had a lot of friends who were beginning to launch things or do stuff, or were connected to people who were launching things or doing stuff. And they didn't have 5K a month to spend on a PR agency. And so, really, I didn't set out to actually do an agency, although there was lots of unlearning in that process as well. I just kind of went out to just do PR for like cool people and good shit, basically. That's how it started.
I'm really, my background, for people who don't know, is also in PR. That's what I studied at university, and I moved more into corporate communications. So we've had very different trajectories. But one of the things that I've really found interesting in the last 7 years since I left corporate comms has been my identity as someone who works in PR and communications, and how that's shifted, and I haven't quite been able to let that go, and all of that kind of stuff. And I wonder, as you were saying, that shift from agency to setting up your own to what you do now, which is helping small businesses to hype themselves, whether your identity with the PR world has shifted, and who you see yourself within it.
Yes and no, which I know is a bit fluffy, but I guess when I started in PR agency land, we did these personality tests, and supposedly I was showing up a lot. They do the color wheel personality test. I was showing up extremely red in the
Oh, yeah.
office and extremely green in my personal life. And I think that's probably changed a bit. And I think that's squished. But I think from going from in PR agency land, setting up my own agency, I probably didn't lose any identity. I think I was probably very much still in that alpha space. And I used to kind of joke that I was like Lucy Werner PR was kind of like my drag alter ego. I had this branding that put me very colourful. It was sort of very bold. And I kind of, I don't know why, but I felt like I had the inverse to most people's self-confidence issues. So I could show up on the internet and be dancing in my office, or be talking about my work, or talking about my clients' work, and I'd have absolutely no qualms about that. But in my personal life, if I needed help, I'd find it absolutely horrific to actually say I was struggling. And that has been good and bad, because then when I did have difficult times, I kind of almost I hid in like Lucy Werner PR a little bit, and she kind of pulled me through what was going through. I would say then the shift was not so much going from being in a PR agency to running my own agency. The shift was probably then going from like a PR agency owner who lived in London and who was always at all the things, going to all the stuff, being seen in all the right places with all the right people, to suddenly being in the middle of nowhere, where I didn't really know anybody and I didn't have any friends. And I was suddenly, probably, if you were on the outside, seen as maybe more of a content creator, or like at worst like an influencer, even though I wouldn't see myself in that category. But when your main income comes from a newsletter where you're like creating content, there was that sort of element of that. And my supplementary income was, although I do a lot of teaching and a lot of workshops for universities and accelerators, and I sometimes do a bit of like kind of white labeled corporate stuff, a lot of it was from brand partnerships or like creating content with brands. So then I was like, oh, like I've kind of, it has really shifted. But at the same time, that alpha ambitious fast, go, make money side of things, against the backdrop of where I live, where I'm now in like in the countryside, and it's the green and the sunshine. It's taken me, I think, 4 years to really unpick and unlearn that energy.
Yeah. Yeah. So take us back to the move to France, and you said you trialled it for a little bit. So what was going through your head at that point?
It was very strategic. It was very much like, I'm going to treat my life like an MVP project. Like, I got rid of my clients. I subletted my house. I kind of just went through it all of like, okay, I need to make sure the mortgage is paid. Okay, I subletted the house. Right now, I need to find somewhere cheap to rent. Right now, we're going to get out there. And to be honest, as woo-woo as it sort of sounds, the universe kind of lined it all up for me. So the day that I was coming out, I got a brand partnership deal to create some content. Then I got a phone call to be one of the first Adobe Express beta ambassadors in Europe, which I'm still doing now, like 4 years later. So I was getting a lot of work to do with that. One client that I was working with, which was going to roll over, she was like, actually, can we finish early? So all of these things started to line up. And at that time, the co-founder of my kids was just doing a big branding program, and I was kind of supporting him on that and promoting that. And so I just sort of thought, oh, I'll kind of take more of a back end role and see if I can just do the admin and the promotion and support what he's doing. And I'll just get some kind of scrappy bits on the side. And, I was getting bits here and there, like teaching for different work, accelerators and memberships. So I was like, yeah, this will probably be enough to like tip me over.
And how long had you planned in the run up to making that shift? Because it sounds like you had your list, but was that a list that was like back of a fag packet type plan, or was it one that it was always the goal after like 2 or 3 years of planning?
So we were going to do it in March 2020, but obviously lockdown happened. So that didn't happen. So it wasn't that I so much sat and thought about it for the next kind of 18 months. It just sort of, again, like the kind of the stars aligned. I was sort of like, if we don't do it now, I don't know when we're going to do it, because otherwise, at that point, my children were 4 and 2, and so I felt like it wouldn't be as disruptive to them at that age. So it was kind of a, yeah, if you don't jump now, you're not going to. So there wasn't that much forethought into it. It was quite, I do tend to sort of fly by the seat of my pants quite a lot in life.
And what were your expectations before you went out there to perhaps the reality?
I think I thought, because I'd had a bit of a traumatic year before a pandemic, I think I thought I was going to go there and like look at the lake and the sea and like cry about all these things that had happened to me. And
Your
actually,
your eat, pray, love moment, yeah.
yeah, I really, yeah, 100% eat, pray, love. And actually, what emerged was nothing to do with what had happened to me. It was more myself and my own identity and what I wanted and how I felt about myself. And even that, being almost quite in love and quite in awe of like Lucy Werner PR and the pedestal that I put her on, and seeing her as like, God, like she really smashed it, versus the view I had of myself as a person outside of work, and where I sort of felt like I was not succeeding. So it was really trying to wrestle those two identities way more than I had anticipated, because there was nowhere to hide. When you're suddenly in space, all these things come up, and it's not what I was expecting to at all. At all.
And what did it feel like in that moment when you realised, oh, I've got Lucy Werner PR on this pedestal, and you started the blinkers maybe came away a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I was aware of that going on for quite a long time. I remember talking to my therapist about it when I was like 30. I came out here at 39. So I still hadn't like wrestled with it. So I think it was more actually, who am I outside of this successful person? And if you take that away, what do you actually want to be doing, and how do you actually want to be living? Not so that it looks impressive to everybody else, but so that you're impressing yourself.
And so, in surfacing those questions to yourself, what did you allow it to shift for you?
I really started to dare to dream. And I think I was looking back at like, when did I really know myself? And I think I really, truly, truly knew myself before, anything sort of happened in my life. I think 6, 7, 8, 9, I was so like, this is me, this is what I wear, this is the music I listen to, this is what I like.
Mm,
And I was really thinking about what I did as hobbies when no one was watching, when social media didn't exist. Who was I at my core self? What did I love doing? And like, I used to do things where I'd record, the top 40, and then I would record my own like radio segments in between of like just me chatting, like, like, this is my take on it. And I would like write out all the song lyrics, because obviously we didn't have Google or anything as well.
yeah, yeah.
And I always kept journals. I had journals before journals were cool. Like, and I was writing every single night about everything that was going on. So actually, the writing, being a writer and being creative, um, really emerged. But also, I guess I've always had that entrepreneurial streak, and I've always had that. Again, I don't know where this comes from, but whenever I've been offered a job, I've always been like asking for more money. Or if I've had a promotion, I'm asking for more money. Or if I'm negotiating with a client, I'm like upselling the biggest projects. And there's that kind of like streak of. I also was told, oh, you can't make money as a writer. And obviously, I haven't made huge amounts from my books. But I was like, I don't think that's true. And actually, I think you can put it as part of your ecosystem. So once I started thinking, like, how can I make writing part of the wheelhouse? Maybe, yeah, the writing on its own is not going to be what makes the money. But how can I bring my love for what I wanted to do and be as a child into what I'm really good at for other people? And I started writing on Medium, and you can still see it. Like, I didn't delete any of it. Some of it's awful. I was like, I'm going to write 100 articles in 100 days. This is when I was pregnant, when I was out here. And I was really surprised because all of a sudden, talking about different things, like the behind the scenes of my job, or like moving to France, or my income strategies, were a lot more popular than they're like, here's how to write a press release, which I was kind of bored of talking about anyway. So I was like, maybe I can actually like share how I do it for other people, but also how I'm doing it for myself. And that's going to inspire people to get themselves out there. So it was the perfect storm, really.
And at this point, have you decided that you were making the permanent transition, or are you still in your let's suck it and
No,
see how it's going?
so we made quite quickly, we were like, we're going to do it. And we probably could have, but I couldn't find a way that we were going to be able to do it and keep our house in London, because we were mortgaged up to our eyeballs and it needed to be renovated. So letting it out was going to be quite tricky, because we wouldn't be able to get like market rate, and then we wouldn't be able to cover the mortgage. So we were like, right, we literally came back in February. We were back by April. This is what I mean. Like, I do tend to move quite fast. Um, and then we were living on campsites because we had English pay slips, so we couldn't get a rental anywhere. And then we found our house. Normally it takes, a good 3 or 4 months for a house to go through. But the person selling his house needed to do a quick sale because they'd already had 2 sales fall through, and it was being like reclaimed by the bank as like an asset. So we ended up getting this house in a month. And the day we got the house, I fell pregnant.
Yeah, yeah. The ultimate nest was ready. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you've made that move over, but there was still an element where you had a foot in the old world, as it were. You were still doing PR support for small businesses, or had that completely?
A bit. So before, in the run up to my pregnancy, I had 2 or 3 projects, but I'd really slimmed it down. So I would just take on like a couple of clients that I would work with over a 3 to like 6 month period. So I kind of took like one last project on, and then the baby, in a way, was like a really good excuse for me to be like, okay, you've got
Mm,
6 months left to do anything with me. So you can do like one-to-ones, or you can join this workshop or this course. And then I'm going off. And then on that maternity leave, I just came off social media and kind of hid for 3 months
mm,
just to like figure out what do I want to do next. And I already knew that I didn't want to run the PR agency anymore, but it was my name, so it was called The One, and my husband was still working for me. So I felt like, well, do I have to shut it down and recreate something in his name, which is just branding? But then that seems stupid because we've got all this SEO, and because having a weird
mm.
name like The One meant, and we'd had loads, I'd done loads of press articles. So we built up this like agency reputation. So I was like, it seems a bit crazy just to cut it. Um, and then I saw a job, which is basically the same job he does now, but in America, and said to him, oh, wouldn't it be funny if they did that in France? That would be like your dream job. And then they opened that position in France and
Oh, wow.
headhunted him. And I was like, great, no, I'm just going to shut the agency. And it was really empowering. I didn't feel sad about
Mm,
it or anything. I was like, I'm ready to do like the next thing. Um,
yeah.
so it was cool.
And you said you were ready. Like, what was that? What was the sign for you that said, yes, I know this is the right thing?
I think definitely moving out to France and realizing that I'd been running at full pelt in the UK.
Mm,
And once I suddenly stopped here, everything sort of like caught up. And I just sort of realized I don't I didn't want to be hiding in work anymore, and I didn't want to be working to run a good agency or to have clients. You kind of do need to be on call from like the minute you wake up to
mm,
last thing at
mm,
night, because there could be something happening and breaking news, or not always. Like if you're doing like a pop-up event or something, you're not as affected by world events. But a lot of the time I was working with founders, and so a lot of the opportunities to them, you're having to react to journalists really quickly, and I didn't have that same bite. And especially with 3 kids in a new country when there's no school on a Wednesday, I was just like, and then with before, I probably could work more because my partner was working for me, but now he had a full-time job. That was actually probably the biggest shift, is that I went from CEO to not trad wife, but the most trad wife
mm.
I've ever been. And I was like, oh, this is like really uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah. I that resonates with me, from just that leaving corporate to the whole balance of who's earning what money versus, and the fact that I've got flexibility and he's got a proper job. Sometimes that plays out and it's like, oh,
Yeah,
hang on a minute,
yeah, yeah,
I've got a job. It's just different to your one. I'm not
yeah.
accountable to. So all of that comes up for me. I don't know whether you've kind of had some of that as well.
A little bit of that, but I mean, I think because we did share parental leave with almost all of them, that put us on a good footing right from the start. And although he is in full-time employment, it's the most difficult bit is probably he travels quite a lot, and then obviously I'm fully on call. But when he's here, it's remote flexible, so he will do like drop off and pickups and things. So
Mm,
he's, when he's here, he's really hands-on.
yeah, yeah.
So that helps. Although, if the teacher's suddenly off sick, or there's a child off sick, or I am default
Mm,
default,
mm.
default mother.
Now, one of the things that I've been really interested in, like following you as you've kind of moved over there, is you've been really open about how you thought most of your work would still be like UK looking, and that you've really had to make an effort to localize yourself and establish yourself locally. So share a bit about that, and I suppose what that moment of realization was for you.
So I basically started working in London at 21, and I left at 39. So that was 18
Mm,
years of me building
mm,
up a network, and I was still living in Hackney. I was still in zone 2. Um, so all of my old clients, contacts, agencies, brands, friends, like everybody was in central London. And when I went out on my own, because I was deliberately trying to grow my audience with the small business community, I was doing a lot of events with people at Enterprise Nation or Small Business Britain, or at Second Home, or at Soho House, or at WeWork. So everything I did was kind of making use of those physical spaces. Now, I know obviously with the pandemic we all moved online, but still a lot of the things that I was doing was with London based brands and experiences, and I used public speaking and workshops to grow my audience a lot. So when I first came out here, I didn't really, I did, there was a little bit, but actually when I look back, I'm like, what a wasted content opportunity. There was no like, oh, I'm moving to France. It was, it was sort of quite hidden in the background, particularly because some of the people I was working with, like universities or social enterprises, I didn't want them to get the jitters that I wasn't working in the UK anymore, in case that made them not want to work with me as a supplier. So I really kind of hid it. And then, you know, before I knew it, like obviously then we got the house and then I was pregnant. So then it was like literally I was just head down as making as much money as I could before that baby came. Like my waters literally broke as I was teaching for Christo's The Future like Academy. Like, and I remember being sat in that class at the end of the workshop, her going, now you can go and have your baby. And in my head I was thinking, well, actually I'm supposed to be teaching a workshop tomorrow, but I guess that's not happening now. And so I had to like cancel the one I was doing on the last day because I thought I had another week and I didn't give myself any clearance. So yeah, that was like kind of a crazy time. And then when I was on the maternity leave, my friend Gabe took a photo of me and I was like, oh lols, this is so me. And I was like breastfeeding in with like one hand and on my phone on the other. And I was like, yeah, this is what my life's like lols. And I used that photo for like a couple of months. And then I remember looking at it and thinking, I don't want that to be my life. I'm done with that. And as much as it was kind of like jokey, and I am really good at breastfeeding and being on the phone at the same time, I was like, this is not what I want to be. That's like a kind of an older version of me. So, and then like when I was chatting to Gabe, I was saying to him like, oh, it's funny actually, like as we were coming up to like shutting the agency, it's like, oh, I kind of feel like I need to change my branding because I don't feel like it fits with where I'm at now. Like it was all kind of bright, and I still think I had that bright element to me and my personality, but actually a lot more of me is like kind of in the forest or in the lake, or you know, I spend so much of my time not working now and in nature and in like French streets and learning French and being a mum, that this old brand doesn't, and that photo in particular just didn't feel like where I was at. So I kind of then worked with Adrian, my husband, to like redo the branding for my new kind of website and newsletter, which sounds kind of really unnecessary, but for me it's, I guess it's like the clothes that you kind of like show up in, and I sort of felt like, right, I've got the right outfit now, I can step out and feel a bit more confident with it. And I think it was then really that I kind of realized, oh, this whole I've moved to France, pivoted my career, had a third baby at 40, and I'm still making an income whilst learning French and raising 3 kids is maybe something that's interesting to other people. And then I realized as well that I had a lot of other relocationers in my network, or pivoters, I guess, not necessarily relocationers, career pivoters, and who were like resonating with what I was saying. And I sort of thought, oh, it's funny, isn't it? It was, I'm so good at pulling out other people's stories, but I was hiding mine. And then when I started to talk about it more, I started getting press opportunities. So I was in the Times, I was in the Eye, I've got like a Telegraph piece coming up, where I'm talking about like moving to France. And I was like, actually, it's always the way that the things that we think are the worst things about us tend to also be like the most interesting and the best things about us at the same time. It's that real double-edged sword. So now I'm definitely like fully leaning into it.
But you've gone beyond it just being a lifestyle shift, and you're embracing the lifestyle. You're talking about the lifestyle, but I get the sense from the stuff that you share that you are also seeking to build your business there in a different way.
Yeah, so it was May last year that my whole Substack got wiped. And it was during that time that I was like, oh gosh, maybe I can't rely on the newsletter. Like maybe this was a silly thing to do. But at that time, I only had like 2 afternoons a week to work. So I had to be really like realistic about what I could do. But I remember like I'd stayed at Rev Retreat a couple of times and we talked about doing a creative writing retreat together. And I was like, let's just do it. And it was like a really good distraction for me, whilst that was completely like dying and collapsing and a nightmare at the same time, to have that to focus on. And then whilst I was kind of launching that, I took a business coach to kind of help me get a bit of guidance. And I think like she was kind of pointing out to me like, you know, you are near Nice, you are near Aix-en-Provence, you are near Monaco, like you have the Cannes Lions, which you've been going to for like 10 years. There are probably like opportunities there. And if you can't find it, then, you know, build it. So I remember like in December, because she'd nudged me a couple of times. And I built this like space in my office and I bought this massive desk. And in my head, I was like, oh, I'm going to have people sat around this desk and I'm going to host them, but I don't have anywhere to sleep them. And she was like, well, just do a day retreat. And so I put it up and I honestly thought no one's going to come because I don't know anybody. And then I sold it. I sold like 5 places between like December the 22nd and December the 27th, just on Instagram stories. It was like
When no one's buying, yeah.
when no one's buying. And it was the easiest thing I've ever sold. And it was a real shock to my own opinion of what it was that I could sell. Um, and then I pitched to get some like a debut budget to do an event here. And I thought, well, they're not going to do that because the way the teams sit, there's like UK and then there's EMEA and I'm UK, but in France, that doesn't sit in, that's not the right budget pot for anybody. Like no one in the UK is going to want me to be doing it. And then I got the budget. So now I'm doing my first event out here. And then literally like this week, I got invited to do like a business festival speaking thing at the end of the year. And I was like, oh, so actually people are fully aware that I'm here and it's not stopping me from getting work. But it's a real that's been a massive unlearning for me to be like lean into it. And I think, you know, the block on myself, honestly, Lee, was that I was like, oh, I don't want to be with expats. I want to speak French. And so I wasn't French enough to hang out at the French events, and I didn't want to get caught up in the expat events because I thought, you know, I'm not. I wanted to like be integrated in the French culture, and so I ended up just basically not hanging out with anybody for 3 years. And
Yeah.
so this year I was like, this is the year I need to get out and like get in my car and go places and network with people. And quite often it is with English people, but it's like English people who are working in French or they have a French partner like me, or, you know, they're very integrated in French, you know, people who want to learn the language. There's the different breeds of people
Yeah.
who choose to move abroad for sure. Um, and that's just been really good for me creatively as well, because before I was like, I've only got 2 afternoons a week, so all my time was being spent either with the kids or learning French or working. And now I'm trying to go, no, you need a little bit of a pocket of time to just meet people and have a community there.
So going from like Lucy PR on the pedestal to where you are now, what are you most proud that you've reclaimed of yourself?
I think those two people have merged. So I can kind of say for sure, like I like myself a lot more now. And also, I'm still discovering new things about me and being a bit more truthful about who I am and what I like and what I don't like. And I say that, I guess, with a bit of a neurospicy lens over the top of it. And I've never gone for diagnoses or take any medication or anything, but I, reflecting on what happened in like that difficult year in 2019, there are moments where I remember like questioning the pediatric surgeons, for example, and they're a special type of people because to do
Oh
that.
yeah.
And they would be like, no one's ever asked us questions like this before. And then when I deleted my Substack, they were like, no one else has ever done the user journey that you did. Like out of the millions of users, no one else has taken that user journey path. And so I was like,
You're a trailblazer.
yeah, a trailblazer at deleting your entire publication. So I think I've sort of realized, a bit like when, I watch like Drag Race and people are saying that, you don't want to lose yourself in the character or the person that you've created. You need to keep true to yourself. And I try to be really honest about, like, I am really good at getting you out there. Like, and I'm really good at getting myself out there. That doesn't mean I have the answers to everything and I'm going to make you millions or I have all the self-confidence in the world. I'm just muddling through. At the end of the day, we're all faking it. Everybody is faking it. We're all just trying to muddle through. And I think I've just sort of finding where it is that I want to land in terms of how much I work and what success looks like, and being less hard on myself.
And what still feels unresolved to you as you're kind of in this chapter that you're in now?
Well,
shall I make another cuppa?
yeah. I think there's 3 jobs. There's me as a mother, there's me learning French, and then there's my actual work that I get paid for. And I 100% don't have the balance right. I always feel like I'm failing at one. But I have to sort of remember that like the parent job's the most important one because there's no one's there. And I think this is the bit, because I move fast, right? So when I don't go as fast as I want to in my French, I'm really hard on myself. But no one on the other side, no one cares. And even if they did, no one's there going, "Oh." I mean, okay, it's always guys. Actually, my guy makes me like, oh, if I was there, I'd be fluent in 3 months. And I'm like, sure, okay, yeah. Working in English all day, every day, sure, sure. I'm not fluent. I'm like lower intermediate. And I would love to be like upper intermediate fluent. And I'm like, oh gosh, like I've been here 4 years and I've still not smashed being fluent. But then I'm also like running a business and raising 3 kids but I'm very I'm still I'm really critical of myself, that I will always see the fails rather than what I've achieved all the time.
Yeah. And that's, I think, in the work that I do, we're always looking at what are these invisible rules, and it's like the shoulds, the musts. I could be doing that. And so we come from that point of thinking that I beat myself up all the time. Like, I should be more productive. I should be, I've got the flexibility of running my own business. So why am I not being more flexible? And then I beat myself up if flexibility is I'm not going to work. Well, I'm not putting enough into the business. So I'm a failure as a business owner. And it's just,
hard to relate.
It's a life's work, and that's the thing. It's like you uncover one thing, you think you've got that sorted, and then it's one of those whack-a-moles, another one comes up.
100%. And I think that for me, the unprogramming, when you've been in a corporate job, where the reality is, if you've been in corporate like you have as well, like we don't sit at our desks and just work. We're in meetings, we're having tea and coffee with other people, we're chatting to clients. And so sometimes I think like, God, I've only worked 4 hours. But I'm like, but those 4 hours were proper deep work, and I come out of it exhausted. I'm like, I don't know how I do this. And then you're like, because you don't work the same way as you do when you're self-employed on your own at home. So yeah, but the bit that I'm always like amazed of is that when I only had those 2 afternoons a week, I've never made more money when I have the least amount of time to work. Like, as soon as more time opens up, I'm somehow like less productive and make
Yeah.
less money, but probably better in mental health. So
So I'm conscious of our time, and I want to make sure that we kind of bring this to a close. What is the one rule that you're perhaps still noticing that you're butting up against?
that rest is productive.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's so true. Like that has been my story of March.
Like, and it would be like, the other Sunday, my husband took the kids to my mother-in-law's. He was like, "Do you want to come?" And I was like, "No." And I was like, I unloaded the dishwasher, I did a workout, walked the dog, watched one episode of RuPaul's Drag Race, and he was back. And I was like, oh, I kind of wanted to do nothing. And somehow
Yeah.
I've killed that 4 hours when I kind of felt like I kind of just wanted to be like lying on the floor sort of thing. I'm okay, by the way, in case I sound like mental.
No, you don't. But that is life, and I'm sure a lot of people listening will resonate with it. You've described my past few weeks perfectly. And I was watching something on TV the other day, and the woman was like, "I've got the evening off with the kids," and I don't have kids, by the way. I've just got a dog and a husband, and that is like, I don't know how anyone with children also do that and live. But this woman, she was like, sat down, glass of wine, chocolate, film, and then out the corner of her eye, she spots all the overflowing toy cabinet. And so she ended up having a whole like spring clean of the house. And that was like, it happens. Yeah. Yeah. So what are you working on nowadays that brings you the most joy or feels the most meaningful to like this version that you wanted when you first thought about this life in France?
What in my business, in the business?
Or anywhere, work
Personal.
or life?
Um, I think like I'm always trying to, I guess, rightly or wrongly, bring all of my worlds together. So I'm looking, and I've just started speaking to a few people in the village to do some kind of free clinics in PR where I do it in French.
Oh, wow.
So I can practice my French, but it's teaching what I love and it's helping people with what I want to do. And it will be at the house. So it's kind of like ticking off. It's ticking off all of those things, and in my head, like we've been here like 4 years now, and we're slowly like chipping away, like doing kind of like different bits of renovations. I've been waiting for 4 years to get some doors on the office because it's really cold in there in winter and really hot in summer. We're about to get some folding doors, which sounds really basic, but I'm like, that's gonna then mean that when you're in that room, you're gonna have a view of the lake. Whereas at the moment, you can only see it if you're like stood up. So I'm like, oh, I'm now building this space, and now I want to bring like people to that space, and like holding space in my own home is like a really nice feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And who, people watching this or watching this back later, who is going to love your work and want to immediately find out more about you?
Well, hopefully anybody who's sort of working for themselves or who's self-employed. Basically, if you're really brilliant at what you do, but really rubbish at talking about what it is that you do, then come and sit with us. And yes, I have a PR background, but it's not just about getting into press. It's all the ways you can be raising your profile to, I say, like, get seen, get paid, which sounds a very crude way of saying it, but getting onto podcasts or doing a collab like this, or writing on somebody's newsletter, or getting to speak on a stage, all the ways that we can get ourselves out there to help get us to a new audience. And I bring in like geeks of their niche from my network as well. So you won't see me bringing in like influencers with like 100, 200K followers. You'll see me bringing in people who are absolutely like geeks in what it is that they do. So we'd have like live calls every month. I send you an article every week. We do a directory of opportunities. Or if you want to actually just hang out with me in person, I've got 2 creative writing retreats on. and I've got one spot left to a VIP day that I'm doing in my house in May. Or if you're in Nice, there's a free event. Come to that.
Oh. You're on my hashtag life goals of the next year to get along to one of your retreats.
I would love that. I would love to hang out with you in real life. It's really weird when you meet people in real life, because I feel like I've already met you, even though I haven't, because I just feel like we know
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah. Well, because you usually scare me with all your creepy crawlies that you post on Instagram.
Yeah. Lee's not a fan of the bugs, the bug life.
No. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'll be sharing this out via Substack, but it also goes out on YouTube and Spotify and places like that. So I'll put all your links in, although I'm sure many people are already connected with you. But please do. I can't recommend Lucy's Hype Yourself community enough. I've met some great people and connections through there, and even with someone with a PR background, I'm really shit at promoting myself. So it's great having that extra accountability and someone that would like give you that little push. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, and thanks for having me. Thanks for asking me.
Thank you. Right, I've got to figure out how to end this now. Oh, there's the end button. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.